So we're doing something a little bit different today. Today we're going to be doing molecular gastronomy, and we are going to be making those flavor caviar balls. And I think for this year, I wanted to do something new. I wanted to do something different. Reason I am going with molecular gastronomy is really, as a vegan, I try to find a lot of substitutes to things. Like, what's a good substitute for eggs? What's a good substitute for, it could be like sugar, it could be like flour. Especially like when we're doing like seitan or like, you know, fake meats or whatnot. How do you do that vegan shrimp? A lot of this breaks down to really the basics of food. Like, what can you substitute for what? What's a hydrocolloid? How does that relate to like an egg? How does an egg thicken? How does it set? How do I substitute an egg? And so all of those questions really lead down to, you have to understand what the basics of the actual ingredient is. What's a starch? How does it relate to flour? So I thought that let's do the easiest of all of the molecular gastronomies, and that is to make these caviar balls and these flavored caviar balls. Things that you can apply it to. You can make vegan caviar, you can make the vegan sushi that you guys see with like the fish eggs, and instead of, you know, really using fish balls, you guys can use carrot juice, or this is actually parsley that I blended up. You can probably do like bubble tea. You know how bubble tea sometimes has, you know, like the mango jellies and whatever, so you can also do that. Okay, so let me start off by telling you guys what I've prepared. So basically, this is a mixture of parsley, or it might have been cilantro, with water. I had some fruit juice in this one. I also mixed this one with like carrot puree, and it kind of turned gross. And the reasoning was actually that I didn't really know this, but the thinner this liquid can be, the better it is, and you should be using demineralized water. So I bought 2 bottles of these. So this is calcium lactate, it's 50 grams, and then sodium alginate. And basically, I mix whatever solution, like whatever flavorings that I want with the sodium alginate, and then what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to pipe in the little balls into a solution of this calcium lactate, and I will give you the information down on the bottom, but there's like a certain percentage. Okay, so first off, a couple of tips on the flavoring liquids. So tip number 1 is to be using distilled water, because anytime you're using like tap or something with calcium minerals in it, it reacts with the sodium alginate, and then you get this like jiggly mess right here. Tip number 2 is, when you mix the sodium alginate, it is very hard to dissolve in liquid. So what you have to do is you have to put it in either with an immersion blender or a blender, and I actually put it on for like medium, high speed for about 5 to sometimes like 8 minutes, just to make sure that everything is nice and dissolved. But what happens to that is that there turns out to be a lot of bubbles in the actual liquid. So just put the liquid aside just for a couple of hours, just until the bubbles actually escape. Probably the third tip that I've been just reading around and playing around with is you can use, you know, fruit juices and whatnot, but be careful about the acidity of the solution. I think you can correct it with another type of, I think it was like sodium citrate. If it is too acidic, sometimes it does not form a gel, or sometimes it interferes with the reactions as well. Tip number 4 is to make sure that your flavoring liquid is not too thick. Like, what I mean is, I also did one with shiitake mushrooms and water, and that was perfect because it was just the consistency of water. When I did this one with the pureed carrots, I don't think I strained it well enough. Like, you should strain it a lot, because the thinner the liquid, kind of the better it will be to make these little drops. So yeah, so those are my tips. I actually bought this, it's American weights. I'll put that brand down on the bottom, but it does kind of minute quantities really well. So because you are kind of working more with like a science-y type of deal, you do want to get yourself a very kind of more precise scale like this. Some of the American weight scales actually go down to the 100th gram spot, so like 1.25. So it's good to be very exact with these things. And then now I am going to be doing my calcium lactate solution. So I have about 4 cups of water here. Good to use distilled, but since this is the calcium solution, I think it's okay to just use tap. Maybe, who knows. So the reason I'm not doing this in a blender is from what I was reading, they say that it's a lot easier to blend the calcium lactate in water, which doesn't seem like it, but I'm going to be whisking it around just for a little bit. Alright, so this is after probably like a good minute or so. I still see like little speckles, but in general it seems to have dissolved fairly well. Okay, now for the fun part. So I bought these pipettes also online. They were like 10 for 2 pounds or something. So, and they're reusable. So let's actually try this. I think they're 20 milliliters. So let's actually do the green one because I think it's gonna show up a little bit better. So I have the syringe like so, and so it might have gelled up just a little bit. When you're doing this, it is important to kind of like play around with the pressure because I think if you press too much, you're not really gonna get, you're gonna get like a big stream. Actually, it's nicer that it's thicker so that it kind of forms a ball before you go. Let's give this guy a try. I mean, it's actually kind of cool, but I need to work on like the pressure so that all of the balls come out the same size, because right now if you don't work on the pressure, sometimes the balls are like, some of them are like bigger and then some of them are like smaller too. But it's actually super, super cool. Wait, let me just try to do some with the pasta. Oh yeah, that's spaghetti for you. Okay, so I realized that the green was actually way too light, so I added some food coloring to this just so that you guys can see it. Let's try it. Yeah, I think that these ones are coming out better. You can definitely see it a lot more. Some of the blogs that I have read, they'll say like, don't put it too high up or else the bubbles actually flatten because of the, you know, the pressure and or like whatever happens to it. And then there's this other thing called reverse spherification, because this is called spherification. But the reverse one is essentially, so the calcium lactate goes with your flavoring liquids and then you put it into a sodium alginate bath. And you guys can read about that. It's supposed to result in like stronger spheres, but maybe it doesn't create spheres as well because it's like thicker. I feel like these are really small. Like maybe my pipettes are really small too. So afterwards you're supposed to take like a spoon and just kind of move the spheres around. The movement kind of helps it turn more circular. So right now I have like a mix of like green spaghetti and then also like little green and yellow dots as well. So it's kind of quite cool. I would like them to be bigger, but I imagine it's like the pipette size, or maybe if my solution was thicker, then you can create like thicker or bigger drops. 'Cause yeah, it's actually helping. If you move the spheres around, it does seem to become more spherical, whereas before I felt like it was kind of like either like ovally or a little bit flat. All right, so let me go, and I'm supposed to move it into water right now. Oh, this looks so cool. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's this like stringy one. This looks so cool right now. Ah! Okay, so I'm gonna put that right into this. What you want is the inside to still have some of that like fruit juice or like whatever flavoring that you have in there so that it bursts in your mouth as you eat it. With this process though, if you kind of keep it for too long and you don't kind of eat it freshly right away, I believe it continues to gellify some more, which, you know, is kind of fine with me. I would say if I were to make it again, you know, obviously this is naturally colored. I'd say like, you know, maybe go and get some food coloring if you guys are doing this like maybe for like a party or just to show friends or whatnot, because it definitely shows up a lot more with more vibrant colors or just like stronger colors or whatnot. I wonder if I can like burst one of these guys for you. Hold on. Let me try. I didn't tell you guys before, but sodium alginate comes from seaweed. So, see, I was gonna do this with like a pin, but okay. Maybe we can just like burst one of them. Ooh, did you guys see that? Alrighty guys, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little experiment. I definitely, I'll probably be doing a blog post on this on, things that I could have done differently to make it like maybe more vibrant. I actually really liked how this turned out. I would have just liked it to be, if I could just do like bigger spheres so that you can actually see like when I burst it, actually there's like liquid that comes up, but I don't think it was as evident because the colors weren't as vibrant. But definitely there's going to be a ton more things that we can do with this application. So anyways, I guess I will be seeing you guys again next time while I clean